Hello, my friend. I'm so happy to have you with me for this journey of the Enneagram and Marriage podcast. Happy Wednesday, or whenever you're listening. So thankful that we can take some time, just like we did on Monday, but a little different today. I'm going to go through some concepts today about how you and your partner work well together, specifically how your partner's type makes you better. This is a growth acceleration episode. So I hope you're ready for that. And just know that those things in your life about your partner that drive you crazy are actually the greatest gift for your personal growth. So you can be encouraged and you don't have to do it 24/7. That's a little tip for everybody as we get started today, is that even though we're going to go through all these ways that your partner can grow you and you're going to be so much better for it. I also want you to know that there are punctuated times for rest in between and just being yourself fully, authentically all the time too. So you don't have to change completely. It's just letting somebody bring you to an even better place with their gift. So we're going to do that today. And I'm going to give you lots of strategies. So if you're like, how are we going to do that? I'm going to walk you through it. I first want to just let you know, as I said, I'm going to have little marriage moments for us this time. And sometimes they're going to be lessons that we learn. Sometimes they're just going to be looking for joy moments or glow moments where you're just shining together. And we had one this week where I noticed that my husband, Wes, I shared about this in the newsletter actually, he had lost something and it was his wallet and he had lost it for several days. It was really one of those moments where he's like, gosh, this is getting discouraging. I think that, we'll need it. We're going to have a trip coming up and we'll need it for all of that jazz, as you know, obviously needing it for driving. And he was getting back to work and he's just like, oh, so he ended up just really needing to reflect. And we had to do that detective work, right? Where we retraced his steps. And I just kept going back to it. And I just wanted to have a good situation with it where we could really show Wes grace of just like, you're allowed to be imperfect, right? He's a type one for those of you who know my husband, and you're allowed to not have it all together all the time. It's been a busy time, and he really appreciated that a lot. So that was the glow moment, even just right there, of being allowed to make mistakes and to have people help you to recover. Ah, that felt really good. Of course, it was even more fun when he was like, oh my gosh, I left it in my suit pocket. And it came through slowing down, ones are doers, and really giving himself the grace to retrace. It was okay, that rhymed, but that was not intentional. So that was a beautiful moment. And then we also just ended up, because of that moment, taking one more moment to bask in the glow of that mutual discovery by going into song and dance, as we can both do when we both are in our seven space. And we just did this like silly Annie dance, like from Rooster and his girlfriend. And it was so funny for those who you remember the Easy Street song. And he pulled out the wallet. We started dancing. It was just so silly. It was just one moment in time. But to be able to just play, just to be able to say, we had a glow moment. Try to think back on one you've had recently. And if it's been a while, I encourage you to do what I did and just create that by giving your partner extra grace over something or an extra great listening ear or sending them a funny text or meme just to allow that shine, that joy to come back to your life too. So you can even do that right now. But really, you're here for a different reason. And I'm really proud of you for pressing play today because you're here to accelerate on growth and let your partner's type make you better. So, we're going to be noticing together that when we have our partner's type and our type, just like we said on Monday, we have that glow about us in a different way, right? Not just the hue of love that I shared from Joyful Laugh, but also we really have more than one gift at that point, right? Because we have our main type, our partner's main type. We have, if you're familiar with deeper dive Enneagram concepts that we'll get into later this season, we've got wings, we've got arrows, we've got strength and stretch points. And so it's really nice to know that you guys create more than just 1 + 1 = 2 together. You just create this three-dimensional whole almost like, okay, if we were to get really geeky in science, like you're going through black holes at this point, like, not in a bad way. You're basically going through wormholes. I guess let's make that a little more positive. You'd be like, girl, we're not going through black holes. Well, you know what I mean? Like you're expanding, you're creating, you're sucking each other in to whatever you're doing, and they're getting pulled by you and the gravitational forces of your life, your momentum. And it's exciting and it's glorious, but it also hurts sometimes. And the sandpaper theory of growth is that sometimes it is gritty and hard and like, ouch, it hurts. You're rubbing against something. There's friction, but you're creating a polish together as you do it. So take that comfort. Remember, if you're just like, Krista, I need more. Our differences are very rough edges, that we have our two things open right now. Both our collective, today is the last day to join, just because I like to create a focused time. And it's our membership group. It is super inexpensive at $29 a month, just a couple of Starbucks really nowadays. And you can have extra podcasts where I coach you. You can have extra time with me in our group. A lot of my people Voxer me and just talk with me through the month as well. So it is access that gives you deeper dive time. And our mini course inside of our collective helps you from the ground up to, if you're just like, I need an organized way to get started, I would love to support you. There's no cancellation fee, and you get so many PDFs and resources as well as trainings. So you do not have to feel overwhelmed by that. You just take as you like. And also, it's okay to be like, our season is over, as you like to. So that's there. We also have our coaching signature masterclass. And if you're like, I want to become an Enneagram and marriage coach, that is going on now too. And you can check all that out in the show notes if you're like, girl, I need more. But let's get started on how you can learn how to really get into depths of learning about your partner, and how you can get something from their type too. Because I know that that's hard when you have that moment. But I want you to think about really quick a way to do it when you're like, okay, I am having a moment where not only am I not learning from my partner's type, but they're triggering me, because I feel like we need to get that out of the way before we get into like, oh, this glorious thing that you're going to be learning. Let's just put that out on the table, that sometimes you're like, my partner's type is driving me crazy. And so that's kind of this trigger to teacher method. It's like, where you just kind of notice, here was my trigger. And let's say I'm going to put myself in that box where it's like, okay, my partner is a 7, and they're making me feel bad because I won't go somewhere with them. And they're just wanting to be spontaneous and they're wanting to do something fun. And I just feel like we're going to be rushed if we do that. We're not going to have time. So notice the trigger. Okay, the trigger is they're pulling me out to do something when I don't want to. Maybe you're a 5, maybe you're a 4, and you just want some time and they're pulling you, or whatever your type. 9. Notice when you have a strong emotional reaction, just kind of like, oh, okay, I feel it. Pause before you respond, right? You just don't want to be like, no, I don't want to go with you. Stop, leave me alone. You're annoying. Just name the feeling. Hey, I'm just feeling frustrated. I'm feeling hurt. And ask a growth question to yourself. This is just all internal. Like, what is this reaction teaching me about myself? Like, maybe I just need some time. Maybe I'm realizing I need a nap. I'm cranky. Maybe it's just I want control. It bothers me that they don't follow my schedule. Maybe even just, am I feeling unsafe, and how so? And how about maybe I feel unseen, and just kind of checking in and find the lesson of, here's what my partner's differences might be showing me. They may be showing you, and we'll get into the details, but like maybe it's also like you heard me say on Monday's episode, I need flexibility sometimes. I wanted to go within in my self-pres mode, and I was learning and seeing all these people we were able to bless when I got out of that mode. So it was helping me to be more flexible. And maybe you can also remember that about your partner. As much as there's a negative to it, there's also a positive. It might be an area where you can get new healing, or, might be even a deep wound in that way, or new skills. It might be that your belief is just limiting you, like, I can't do it. And really, you can absolutely do it. I know I feel that way sometimes before one of my kids or Wes will be like, you want to go on a little run? And I'm like, oh, I'm tired. But once I get out there, I'm good, as long as I'm not pushing too hard. And practicing new responses can be like, okay, thank you for this growth opportunity. You're giving me a challenge. I'm not used to this, but you're definitely making me put on faith, expansiveness. Maybe you even need time with God to be like, God, I'm opening my hands to you and letting you help my spouse and I to really let each other's gifts shine, not just our own. But I'm going to encourage you now, type by type, because I want you to be able to answer specifically. What is this teaching me about patience, control, different ways of caring? And I'm going to go through all the types. And as I said, I'm going to start with nine this time because I want our nines to feel so loved. So if you're married to a nine, then raise your hand, listen up, come back to me if I lost you, and learn with me about what they can teach you. And that is here. And this goes for if this is your kid, your friend, your parent, your spouse, obviously, but just keep in mind if you're with a nine, they will teach you the power of peaceful presence. They will teach you to develop multiple perspectives instead of just your own thinking about you. They help you to develop patience, acceptance, to not feel like you have to be at the top of the climb all the time. They can just bring you that down to earth fun. And they can bring you the wit and the joy of competitiveness, just playful competitiveness, and the growing in emotional steadiness, because they can have that place where they're like, oh, I can be steady. I don't have to be up and down all the time. So that is something our daughter Melody really brings us. I know Melody's episode is like the number one most listened to episode on this podcast, but really, really thankful that she has shown me that. And several of my nine friends, two of my dearest nine friends, I've had one of which on the podcast, Elisa, but just giving that emotional steadiness, other than like the emotional mom tears, we're going to bring. Um, Being married though to an eight now, let's move on to eights. And if you're with a nine, make sure you allow a deep breath, a responsiveness, maybe even share it with your nine. Um, if you're married to an eight, know that they've taught you, even through example, how to stand up for yourself and others because they are brave. And that is one of my favorite things about an eight. They show you how to develop inner strength and courage and direct communication. I love that they're clarifiers and they help us grow in personal power and protection. I was telling you guys the end of last year was so good for me to go to my dad's alma mater basketball game, even with a lot of overwhelming things, because he was doing that even while he was the end stages of life. And he was like, come on, you can do this. And just, I love that about you guys. You're so strong and brave. And I love that about my eight friend, Liza, who just went and started a farm with her husband and truly just lives out her dream. She's a business owner as well. And she is just a rock star in my world. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, girl, you've got it. Now, being married to a seven, again, we talked about this earlier, but you learn to embrace spontaneity, joy. We just, on the other date night we just had, I was like, Wes, don't you love stand-up comedy? Like my friend, we wrote this mystery dinner script for a train once. And I was like, I noticed they're having just a time of stand-up comedy. And I was like, do you want to go to that for our date night? And he's like, I'm not good at stand-up. And I'm like, are you sure? I was like, we don't need to go. Forget that. But like, I was like, I think you are better than you realize. He's like, I'm a one. I like to plan everything. And then in our car, I just was like, all right, well, let's do some car stand up. And so I picked a theme and we had so much fun and he did well. And it was, yes, being married to a seven, there's going to be spontaneity. There's going to be optimism, resilience, new possibilities and challenge, flexibility, adventure. And I'm so excited for that. In fact, he and I are planning our daughter. We had planned that they would graduate college and high school together. And then Hannah started to slow down a bit, rightly, as a four. She is going to be graduating so young when she does. She'll still be under the age, but they're not graduating exactly together. But we're going to do a special Europe trip. And I'm so excited that Wes is on board for that because he's with a seven and he's like, yeah, I want to do this. And it's going to be beautiful because he's so into it. And Melody's been asking for that since she was 10 years old. So it's beautiful. Also, she earned herself a full ride to college. I'm like, girl, you deserve this. Being married to a six. Sixes are so loyal. And if you're with a six, you know this. And they have the strength of committed loyalty, the importance of trustworthiness, the developing skills and planning, preparation, the way they help you to grow in reliability and follow through. I could name so many things that they help with to make sure that your times are peaceful, secure, and predictable. And isn't that beautiful in today's world when you plan well and you know what to expect because your six has been so thoughtful to make things smooth? And of course, there's always ways we can grow, but this is a beautiful part of a six life that they bring us. And I'm so thankful for that. Okay, if you're married to a five, they bring you the value of thoughtful reflection. They don't feel this pressure to answer everything right away. And they do take time to think through everything that they care about before they commit to it. They have that power of curious investigation. And when their glow rubs off on you, you start to feel permission to introvert, to take time to solve problems in a deep dive way. You develop comfort with space, with silence. You grow in intellectual depth. I love my five clients who give themselves permission to dig deep. I love when I see them troubleshooting like sixes, but in a way that takes them down to such minutia of information that they know everything about everything. It seems, of course, your fives are always like, oh my gosh, I don't know everything, but like you know a lot more than a lot of us. So it's beautiful. And those who are married to you get to know a lot as well. Always learning, which is so good for your brain. Now, if you're married to a four, you learn to embrace and express emotions fully. You discover depth in ordinary moments. You develop comfort with authenticity. Oh my gosh, I could talk about that all day on this podcast. You grow in emotional awareness. You take your time more. And that has been the biggest gift of having a four. Hannah is 19 and she has taught me so much about presence. And ever since she was little, like, Mom, you know, you just want to take time with me. I'm like, you're right, I do. Why am I running so fast? And she just brings that to me. And I know that if you're with a four, they bring you that ability to sit, to be, to create wonder together, to look at skies together, to take pictures, to capture every moment. And it's a beautiful thing. Now, if you're married to a three, they will help you to celebrate your progress and achievements with pomp and circumstance. They want you to know they think you're a big deal and they care a lot about your dreams. They will help turn your dreams into goals, in fact, and help you to develop confidence in your capabilities. And again, that's why I started out with our troubleshooting of like what to do when you're feeling like, oh my gosh, I need some teaching if I'm not wanting to grow. But don't miss it. This three in your life can help you to grow so much if you'll let them and tell them your things and say, will you help me to grow? Will you help me to goal get? Be brave to do that because they help you to grow in positive development too for yourself. It's just such a win-win. Now, being married to a type two or relating with a two, they will help you with the art of emotional attunement so you can feel the feelings of others and just so much relationship. My best friend and I were voxering, and she was sharing how she's relating with somebody without going into any personal details. She's just like, oh, I know exactly how they feel. And just so good at putting herself into the shoes of others and me and others, and just really reflecting back. And they teach you how to be a good reflective listener and to open your heart again with deep layers of empathy. You heard me talk about my niece Bella on the last episode, doing that for me so beautifully, and develop awareness of others' needs. They help you grow in expressing your care meaningfully so that you're not just, caring but not saying anything. Twos will help you to get it out there. They want to know how much they're loved also, and they will encourage you in that way of opening your heart to love, which I think is probably why I'm so blessed to have my local bestie and my faraway bestie, both being twos, and a bunch of others of you out there whom I'm close with as well that are twos. It's just, I'm so grateful. Now, last but not least, the one. As I said, ones are so good at that seven place, but let's talk about them in their one place where they really shine to see the beauty in striving for excellence. This is something I have been so blessed by in my marriage. Also, ones help us to see how principles create freedom, not restriction. That when we're doing good things, we actually thrive more. We also develop an appreciation for thoughtful improvement. Wes is like, I just decided to fast. He went to a different church service than me today because he was taking our son for something. And he's like, I wanted to tell you, I am going to be fasting off of sweets for the next 10 days or so. And I was like, that's amazing because he's trying to have thoughtful improvement after his bicycle accident. He's like, I had so much holiday eating. It's not a long fast, just for a little while. And I was so impressed by that. And I was like, I'm working on portion control as a seven. I have this, and also I'm on Zyrtec for allergies, and he's always telling me, he's like, yeah, that's one of those things that people get also if their appetite is suppressed. So I'm like, I'm always hungry, so it's just good for me to remember portions. And it's just like, as you can see, he's rubbing off on me. Also, growing in integrity and intentional living is something that they're really at least loving to embrace, even if they don't always do it perfectly. No one is perfect. So give yourself just a butterfly hug if you're a one who's on that journey, or allow yourself a pat on the back because you are doing a beautiful job if you're just trying to keep growing in integrity and intentional living. And I told Wes the other day, that was one of my favorite things about you. So when I did see him start falling, this is like 10 years ago, I was like, you're the one who got me living with integrity and intentionality. So make sure you hold to that yourself. And it's so funny. Like I said, last episode, I lost my joy in some ways for a while, trying to hone in on other things. And Wes could lose this part. So you might even notice when I said you might be like, oh my gosh, yeah, you were talking about me or my partner. And I feel like they lost that for a little while. That's totally normal, but call it out in each other. Be the one who brings out that spark to say, I know that you're capable of this. I know if you're a one, you're going to polish me. If you're a two, you're going to help me, of course, with my rough edges in different ways to be softer and so on and so forth. So give yourself a moment to think about, like, what does my spouse bring me in their gifting? And if they're not bringing it, then make sure that you allow yourself to say, I am going to remind them. I am going to not let this lose us because we want to continue to grow together. And for a little end of our time marriage minute, if you want to, you can also just tell your partner a little bit about why you fell in love with them using this. You can say, I was thinking about you today and how you're a three. And this is one of the reasons I fell in love with you was this part of you. I know for me, it was Wes in the physics class. He was showing up with all of his knowledge and his wisdom and his type one. And it was just like he was doing excellence in his schoolwork. And I just was so attracted to that. I looked up, like, I never looked up on other things when I heard about him being on the football team or the Bible club in that time in my life. And it was just so wonderful for me to be like, oh, you showing excellence in your studies was so attractive to me with my nerd brain. I guess my nerd brain was very deeply buried at that time when I was trying to be cool. And now I'm just so happy to have it back. I'm like, I love being a nerd because that is actually being cool when you're just yourself. And you know what? I love authenticity. So I'm so glad that high school is a short time. I'm so glad my kids know that too. They're in the thick of it all. I'm sure some of you have that too, where you're like, I'm so glad I'm no longer in those seasons of life. But just take a nice deep breath with me today as we end the episode. You did well. You have lots of opportunities for growth now. I've given you things in the show notes if you're interested in coaching. I've given you an opportunity last day today to join our collective membership. And you have lots of deep diving you can do right here with us at Enneagram and Marriage all over the place. So I hope you will do that. Thank you so much for being part of this journey today, spending your time with me. I look forward to next time. I'll talk to you soon. Bye bye.